Okay, alright, part 2 of 7.3 and 7.4 is that this is the back side of the note sheet. Now there's some twists and different things going on in the back, but step number 1 in this problem right here, they're in standard form. So now I choose, do I eliminate the x's or the y's? And I'm choosing to eliminate the x's to make these x's 6 and negative 6. So I'm going to multiply this top equation by a negative 3, which becomes negative 6x minus 18y equals negative 12. Bottom equation, I will multiply this by a positive 2, and I'll have a 6x minus 14y equals 12. Now I chose to eliminate the x's, and I made one a negative 6 and one a positive 6. So when I add these two equations up, the x's are eliminated. So these are gone. These adding up the y's, you're going to have a negative 32y equals 0. So divide by a negative 32, negative 32, and you get y equals 0. So when you back substitute, I'll do it in the top equation. You have 2x plus 6 times 0 is going to be 0. So to get x alone, you're going to divide by 2, and x equals 2. So your ordered pair is 2, 0. Check it. The first equation is a 4. 4 plus, you plug in a 0 here, will be a 0, and that works. Second equation, plug in a 2 for your x, that gives you a 6, and a 0 in for your y, so you have 6 equals 6. That's a check. Second equation. They're not in standard form, so I'm going to rewrite these. I'm going to make this x go to the other side by adding the 4x, and you'll have a 4x plus 5y. I do not want the 20 on this side, so I'm going to subtract 20. Oh, sorry, it's already subtracted. I'm going to add 20 to both sides, and so this is going to equal a positive 20. So I move the x to the left, it became positive. A constant got moved to the right, and it became positive. So that first equation is now in standard form. Second one, to put in standard form, I'm going to go ahead and multiply it by 4, first of all, to clear fractions. So I will have a 4y equals, the 4's will cancel here, and I'll have a negative 5x, and when I distribute 4 to the other side, I'll have a plus 16. Now it's not in standard form. In order to be in standard form, I need to move the x to the other side by adding a 5x. So you're going to have a 5x plus a 4y equals 16. Okay, step number 1 is done. To eliminate the x's or the y's, I choose to eliminate the y's. So we'll multiply the top equation here by a 4, bottom equation by a negative 4. Okay, top equation becomes 16x plus 20y equals 80. Bottom equation becomes negative 6, that's negative 20, sorry. Negative 20x minus 16y. I did something wrong. Back up the truck. I should have multiplied by a negative 5. You guys were probably yelling at me through the monitor. Okay, so if I multiply by a negative 5, top equation should have been the same. 20y equals 80. That's okay. Bottom equation, when I distribute a negative 5, you have negative 25x minus 20y equals negative 80. I'm going to add them. My x's become a negative 9x, but my y's are dropped. They are eliminated. And the 80 and a negative 80 become a 0, which that doesn't happen every time. It looks like it is. Okay, divide by a negative 9 and x equals a 0. Do back substituting. I'm going to plug it into the top equation. I have a 5y minus 20 equals negative 4 times 0 will be 0. So add your 20. So you're going to have a 5y equals 20. Divide by 5 and y equals 4. So my ordered pair is 0, 4. Check it. Plug in a 0 for my x. So 0 is here. And plug in a 4 for my y. That's going to be a 20. Minus 20, sure enough, equals 0. Plug it into the next equation, 0 for x. so that whole term drops, and 4 for my y. So 4 is going to equal, this is dropped, equals 4. So that's a check. Circle it up. Alright, the next equation, we want to eliminate the fraction. So multiply by the least common denominator. Look at your denominators. The smallest number that they'll all multiply into is a 10. Now if I distribute the 10 to the first term, you'll get 20 over 5, you get a 4x. Distribute to the next term, you're going to get a negative 10 over 2, which is negative 5y. Distribute to the last, and you get a 10. Bottom equation, the least common denominator is a 10 again. So 5 and 2 and 1 all multiply into the 10. So distribute the 10 to the first term, you're going to have 10 over 5, which is going to give you a 2x. Distribute it to the second term, 10 over 2 is going to give you plus a 5y. Distribute to the last is equal to a negative 10. These are ready to go. Your x's are not the same, but your y's are additive inverses. So if you add these equations up, you get a 6x. The y's are eliminated. And again, this equals 0. This is bad. They don't always equal 0, but it looks like it. Back substitute. It's nice when they're 0, though. I'm going to put a 0 into the top equation. 2/5 times your 0 minus a 1/2 equals a 1. This drops. This is a 0. So you have a negative 1/2 y equals 1. To get your y alone when you have a fraction, you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So multiply by a negative 2 over 1 on each side. And you get y alone. These all cancel. And you have a negative 2. So my ordered pair is 0, negative 2. So let's see if it works. Plug in a 0 for my x, that drops. Plug in a negative 2. So if I plug in a negative 2, the 2's will cancel. A negative times a negative is a positive 1, and that equals 1. In the bottom equation, when you plug in a 0, this whole thing will become 0. And if you plug in a negative 2 here, your 2's will cancel, but you'll get a negative 1 left, equals negative 1. So that checks out on both equations. Alright, the last thing on the bottom is if you take the same system, notice that this is the same as this. The system is the same. There are two lines. And whether you do graphing, substitution, or elimination, you will get the same answer. So we're going to go through all methods. So the top equation here, to get y alone, I'm going to subtract 2x, and I'll have 3y equals a negative 2x plus 12. Divide everybody by a 3. And you're going to get y equals a negative 2/3 x plus 4. Graph the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 on your y-axis. Go down to right 3, or up 2, left 3. And I'll draw that line. And then the other line, we'll make it blue. To get y alone, you're going to subtract your x. You'll have y equals a negative x plus 5. Start at 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on your y-axis. Down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. Looks like they're intersecting here. So let's try it. I have not perfectly accurate lines. They're not perfectly straight, but let's take a look at, I'm going to say 2, 3. We'll start with that one. And at 2, 3, if I guess 2, let me put it on the other side. If I guess 2, 3, if I plug in a 2, I get a 4, and I've 4 plus 3 times 3 is 9. That's not going to work. So that 2, 3, not a good choice. So I'm going to pick 3, 2. So if I plug in 3 here, I'll get a 6. If I plug in 2 here, I'll get a 6. That works in the first equation. Second equation, if I plug in a 3, I get a 3, and a 2, I get a 5. That's a check. So I'll circle that. Substitution method, I'm going to pick one of the variables to get alone. I'm going to pick this x. To get x alone, I have to move up y out of there. So x equals 5 minus y. X equals this stuff. I'm going to stuff it back in for the x in the other equation. So my equation becomes 2 times the quantity, 5 minus y, plus 3y equals 12. Distribute. You have a 10 minus a 2y plus 3y equals 12. Combine my like terms. I have 10 plus y equals 12. When I subtract my 10, I get y equals 2. Back substitute. I'll do it in the bottom equation. X plus 2 equals 5. So when you subtract your 2, you get x equals 3. And your ordered pair is, 3, 2, which is the same as what we had before. And we already checked it. Last method, elimination. I'm choosing to eliminate my x's. I'll multiply by a negative 2. So the top equation is a rewrite. And the bottom equation becomes negative 2x plus 2y, plus a negative 2y, equals a negative 10. When I add these, the x's are eliminated. I'll get a 1y equals a 2, so y equals 2. Back substitute, I'll do it into the bottom equation. X plus 2 equals 5. When you subtract your 2, x equals 3. Ordered pair is 3, 2, same as before. And voila, we have the same answers, different methods. So that's a summary of the two sections. You can start your homework. Good luck.